So crime scene investigation, analysis of the physical evidence, and the expert testimony and the analysis of physical evidence is the second aspect in which when the evidence is collected at the scene of crime by the police or the forensic scientists, the evidence reaches to the laboratory, and it is a duty of the forensic scientists to analyze those evidence by different methods as per their areas, biology, chemistry, toxicology. They are divided into a laboratory and analysis is done into the laboratory as per the requirement given in the requisition form by the police. Then when the report is prepared, so the person or the scientist may be called in the court of law during the hearing of the case for the expert testimony in the court. So that is the expert. So these are the three major areas in which the forensic scientist need to work. So when we say forensic science, and what is the use of forensic science? So the forensic science provides the answer to the three major questions. That is the main thing in the forensic science in any crime investigation. Has a crime committed? How and when the crime committed? And who committed the crime? So consider the case the recovery of a dead body. If it is a case of any homicide, suicide, or accident, so definitely the dead body will be there. So consider the case of recovery of dead body. So death would be natural, accidental, or the homicide. So how it can be determined that it is a case of homicide, suicide, or accident on the basis of the evidence present on the body. So the science, by ascertaining the nature of death, establishes the existence or absence of the corpus delicti. So corpus delicti is the major aspect in any death case. Corpus means the body, delicti means the evidence, so generally called the body of evidence. So in a case where the body is found homicide, suicide, or accident, so corpus delicti itself is the body. So it indicates, it proves actually. It proves if any body is present at the scene of crime, so it proves that something bad is happening. Something illegal has been happened. The person was killed. Whether it is a homicide, suicide, or accident, that is the second aspect. So this proves whether the crime is the body is found at any place. This proves the crime is committed. So that is the first point, indicate that has the crime been committed. So yes, the presence of the body at the crime scene indicate the crime is committed. If the body is not found, in some cases, in every case, there will be not be the body. So the corpus delicti may be any other evidence. Any other evidence other than the body. Suppose in a case of a drug trafficking case, only the drug is present, drug is found, drug is seized. So there is no body. So, but the corpus delicti is the other evidence. So corpus not only details about the body, presence of the body, but the other evidence which proves that the crime is committed. So how and when was committed? So examination of the corpus delicti reveals the way of crime was committed and possibly the time when it was committed. Now the third aspect and the major aspect, who has committed the crime? So by using the links, by making the chains, by connecting the one evidence to the another, evidence present at the crime scene and evidence found at the body of the person, suspected person. So it makes a link, it makes a chain. So if this chain is complete, so then the person is suspected that he has committed this crime. So forensic science establishes the identity of the culprit through the personal clues like fingerprint, footprint, blood drops, or hair. So it links the criminal with the crime through objects left by him at the scene with the victim or carried from the scene and the victim. Because as we know, there are several types of principles, and the major principle on which the forensic science is based, that is the Locard principle of exchange. So Locard principle of exchange says when the two things come into contact with each other, there is definitely a transfer of the materials. So if any person is involved in that particular place at particular time, so definitely something will be transferred from that place to that particular person. So important thing is the careful investigation or careful identification of that evidence and linkage of that evidence with the crime scene is important to determine that the person was involved or was present at the time of incident. So forensic science not only determines the fact that the person has committed the crime, it can also be helpful to prove that the person has not committed the crime. So suppose if any linkage is not found, the suspected person is there, and we have analyzed, as a forensic scientist, we have analyzed the evidence, but there is no linkage was found between the scene of crime and the person. So it means the person was not involved. So forensic science not only help you to establish the identity of the person, so identity of the culprit, but also help an innocent person. So if the clues recovered do not link the accused, with the victim or the scene of occurrence. So the innocence of the accused is established. So forensic science thus helps the innocent also. So there are the two aspects of the forensic science. So the application of forensic science in the investigation of crime can be effective if the investigator officer knows. Because as I said, in India, the majorly the investigation is the police investigation. It is not like in the USA where the medical examiner system is there and the forensic pathologist or medical examiner is the main key head of the investigation unit. He is a medical person who knows much about the forensic science. So here the scenario is different in India. Here the police officer has a little knowledge and some knowledge of the forensic science, and he always need help of the forensic scientist while collecting the evidence. But if the forensic team is not available at that particular time, so it is expected from the investigating officer, he should have the proper training in the forensic science and he must have this information with him and knowledge with. So the nature of the physical evidence to be collected, because the nature of the evidence is collected is different in the different types of crimes, where it is found, what is the probable location where that can be searched for. Suppose in case of burglary, so the most chances of the fingerprint will be found at the entry and exit point. So this entry exit point must be searched in case of burglary. So how it is collected in and packed, what are the methods for collection of the biological evidence, what are the methods for collection of the non-biological evidence, methods for the volatile substances, method for the non-volatile substances, methods for collection for the in case of gunshot residue, bullets. So there are different types of evidence and every evidence has a different set of methods for collecting the packing of the evidence and the collection and the packaging of the evidence. So this must be known to the investigating officer. So what standard samples for comparison purpose are necessary, how much sample is required, how the sampling is done, and how the evidence will link the crime. So all these aspects must be known to the police officer, or he can take the assistance from the forensic scientist who is available at the scene of crime. So many of you are aware with this these photographs. So this is a very famous crime thriller or the detective serial, which was very popular in India, and it has motivated the millions of the person to go into the field of forensic science. Basically, it was a crime thriller and the crime detection, and it runs on the Sony TV for a very long duration, for almost 20 years. It was aired on the Sony TV, and if you remember these faces, so anyone can tell the name of these faces? You are getting my voice?
Yes, there's someone written in the chat box.
Some students have mentioned in chat box.
Okay, the right answer. So everyone is aware. So means everyone knows about the name of these three, and this serial was very popular, and that motivated the millions of the people or students to join in the forensic science. So apart from this, there are a number of series, number of detective serials which are very popular Indian TV serials. So this was the first was the CID. So the Crime Investigation Department. CID is the one of the longest running Indian television serial focusing on the crime investigation by the team of detectives. While not exclusively centered on forensic science, many episodes of CID featuring the forensic evidence analysis. So many times in the several serials, several episodes, so they have focused the forensic science as a center. especially the fingerprint examination. Adalat is also a courtroom drama series that follows the life of a defense attorney, K.T. Pathak, who solved the complex cases using his legal expertise and investigative skills. So forensic evidence and scientific analysis often plays a role in unraveling the truth behind the cases. Similar to that, there are the other serials, Southern India, Crime Patrol. So they are also focusing mainly on the crime anthology, but they are also focused the some aspects in the forensic science. So many episodes highlight the importance of forensic evidence and investigation techniques. In the Crime Patrol, the forensic evidence and scientific analysis are often depicted as an integral part of the crime solving. So there was a one detective serial in my time. So in the search time, so in the 90s, it was the Byomkesh Bakshi. So it was the detective series, and he was a very clever detective in that time. Although the forensic was not very clearly predicted in this series, but the techniques what he has used, Byomkesh Bakshi has used in this serial, so that was the related with the forensic science and forensic techniques. So it is an Indian television series based on the fictional detective character Byomkesh Bakshi, created by the Bengali writer uh, Shardendu Bandyopadhyay. So the series aired in the Doordarshan early 90s and was very popular in that time. So these are the few TV serials which have given the scope of the forensic science and aspire the students and the other community to go into the to look into the forensics. Internationally, there are a lot of serials are there regularly running nowadays also, and the most famous is the CSI, the crime scene investigation. So this American television series follows a team of forensic investigators. So because in Western countries they are working very good in the forensic science from the last 10 or 20 years. So they are using the physical evidence and the forensic science in their serials. So they use physical evidence to solve the crime. In a serial, the bone, the forensic anthropologist, and an FBI agent team up to solve the crime by examining the human remains in an American procedural drama. So the show combines elements of forensic science, anthropology, and the crime solving. Forensic science is nowadays it is running. It's a very popular serial. It is all about the forensic science. Okay? Everything what is contained in this is related to the forensic science. So in this documentary style American series, so they have showcased the role of forensic science in solving the crimes. Each episode features the interviews with investigators, forensic experts, and sometimes a accused itself. So you can go through this forensic files. This is a very good to see and worth watching to see this forensic files and understand what are the cases and what are the technology and tactics they are using, forensic tactics they are using in solving the case. Two more serial. There are a number of serials, but the few here, The Silent Witness, it is a British crime drama series that follows a team of forensic pathologists, and the Crossing Jordan, so American crime drama series, follows a forensic pathologist. So whenever you find time, so just go through this series and you will find the very good insight of the forensic science to this series. Now, come to the again the what is actually the scope of you are discussing the scope of forensic science. So as I discussed the different types of division serials, so this opens not only about the scope of forensic science, they are using the forensic science terminology in their serials, but also they are opening a new ways in the terms of the media forensics. In the media forensics, so means there is another scope where you can go and make a choice after if you have interest in this some graphical and others, so you can make a scope after completing your bachelor's degree. So forensic science is a multidisciplinary field, so that applies scientific principles and techniques to the investigation, and it has several subdisciplines. So as you are already studying, so you have the much already has some idea about the different disciplines. But regarding the traditional disciplines which are already present, like forensic chemistry, toxicology, serology, biology, lie detection, so you must work on the some new or emerging areas that have the more very much scope in the for the job point of view. So the crime scene investigation, the crime scene processing, collection, preservation, scene reconstruction, forensic anthropology, as we know, it is about all about the analysis of the bones or skeletal remains. But now the new branch has been added and separated from this anthropology, that is the forensic taphonomy. So study of postmortem changes and environmental effect on the remains. Forensic odontology, uh, although some nowadays it is realized that this science is not a very good science, is considered as pseudoscience and not accepted in some countries. So, but still, the dental identification and the bite mark analysis is still in use. Forensic pathology. Forensic pathology is purely dedicated to the forensic pathologist, so not area of the forensic scientist, because the forensic pathology means the autopsy and the medical legal postmortem and identification or determination of times is death, manner of death, and cause of death. Forensic document examination, handwriting document, and forensic entomology. So these are not the new branches. These branches, entomology also has evolved from last 10 or 15 years back, but India scope is increasing. So, but if we talk about the emerging areas, what are the emerging areas in forensic science nowadays? And you must look and you must focus on those areas to make a career, because if you go traditionally in the forensic toxicology and the forensic chemistry and the forensic biology, so the scope is now limited, and especially in the private sectors. Because if you do any work in the forensic toxicology chemistry, that is good, that is very good. But when you look for the opportunities in the private labs, so then the scope is limited, because in the private labs the area which is mostly which is high, which is the priority nowadays, they are the documents, fingerprints, and digital and cyber forensics, and along with the other engineering areas, that is the high priority in the private sector. So environmental forensics, the pollution source identification, that is also an area you can choose after their degree program. The forensic nursing, that is also not part of yours, related to the nursing department. Forensic engineering is a new and area in which accident reconstruction, analysis of vehicle crashes, structural failures, and other incidents to determine the causes. And this is required, especially in the, if you say the, what is the private organization, what is the scope of this accident reconstruction? So this is in the insurance companies. So insurance companies, they need to settle the cases, because every vehicle, it is compulsory, every vehicle have to have a insurance. So when any insurance, when any owner of the vehicle files a case for the claim settlement, files a claim for the settlement, so it is to investigate whether this case is genuine, whether the claim is genuine or not. So how much amount will be paid to the person. So in that case, there's a requirement of this forensic investigator. So you can go for that, and you can apply in the insurance companies that you have the specialty. If you do the some work during your BSc and MSc dissertation on the road accident investigation, so definitely you will get an edge to get a job in the this insurance companies. So fire and explosion investigation, again the same thing in the insurance companies or in the other companies also, not insurance, where there are a damage caused to the fire and explosion, whether it is an intentional fire, whether it is the fire to get the claim of the insured company. So suppose I have a factory, and that factory I am not getting benefit out of this factory, but it has an insurance of 10 crore. So I'm a owner of the company by intentionally set it fire to get the claim. So that is also in that case where the investigation will be done by the company insurer. So whether this is genuine or whether this is man-made, whether it is accidental, so that is investigated. So that can also be done by the forensic investigator. Digital and cyber forensic. Initially, there was a simple and digital and cyber forensic. Now the scope of digital cyber forensic increasing, and the areas are increasing that area. So advanced digital forensic, enhanced techniques for recovering and analyzing the data from increasingly complex and diverse digital devices. Cloud forensic, because the data is stored now on the cloud. So the threats is also there. So investigating cyber crimes involving the cloud storage and the computing platform. Internet of the Things forensics, so analyzing the data from the connected devices like smart home systems, wearables, and industrial sensors. So these are the new or emerging areas in the digital and cyber forensic, along with this, clubbing with this engineering science. So in the engineering science, if we go towards that, towards the digital engineering, so then the scope is increasing. Forensic genomics, if we are fond of the biology and go to the biological science, So if you go at the molecular level, so forensic genomics, and it is increasing. So for instance, next generation sequencing (NGS), it is utilizing the advanced DNA sequencing technologies to analyze the genetic material with greater accuracy and the detail. Forensic genetic genealogy, combining genetic analysis with the genealogical research to identify individuals in the and solve the cases. And epigenetics, studying the changes in the gene expression without changing alteration in the DNA sequence. So these are the, but this is at the molecular level. So if you want to do your PhD in the biological science or in the molecular biology area, so you can choose these areas. So they will be helpful to get you more knowledge and the more open your more field in the case of the research. Artificial intelligence, as you all know, we have the AI everywhere. We have the chat GPT and we have the other AI tools which are ready to help us. So we can take the help, not misuse those apps, but we can learn those apps. We can have the certificate, take the certification, because you have the degree of the forensic science, bachelor's degree or the master degree. But at the same time, when you want to go for the in the private sectors in these areas, so you must have the certifications. So along with your degree, it is advised. My genuine advice to you must have the some certification, online certification from the either from the Coursera, from the even we have the SWAM portal, NPTEL portal. So from anywhere, from you find it's suitable, so you can get the certification. So that certification will help you to get a job in this reputed companies who are working in these particular areas. So automated analysis using AI and the machine learning to analyze the database, image and video analysis, enhancing the ability to process, especially in case of CCTV cameras, video footage. It is always required to enhance the image and to get the clarity of the number plate and all. So in this case, interpret the digital imagery and the video footage, including the facial recognition and the behavioral analysis. Blockchain and cryptocurrency nowadays it is increasing. It is basically the engineering branches, but you can club with the forensic, and you can get the scope in this branch. So cryptocurrency tagging, the blockchain forensic, and the big data analytics and the predictive policy. So these are some of the areas, increasing areas, emerging areas in which you can choose and you can make a career. So this all forensic science. So when we say so these are the different disciplines of the forensic science. So these all disciplines of forensic science and all the forensic science is governed by the separate set rules. Because every science has their own discipline. Physics has their own rules, chemistry has their own rules, and the physics and the biology has its own rules. So in the same way, the forensic science has its own rules. And the two major rules, that is for the forensic science, especially, that is the Lookout principle actions and the individuality principle. Lookout principle actions, you all know, when the two things come into contact, there is always the transport of the materials. Individuality principle is a very important thing. Individuality principle says even the two things which are very same, they are manufactured in the same, with the same model, same match, same machine at the same time, even though they have some differences. So means the two things cannot be identical in all aspects. So that is the main aspect of the investigation. If even the two things looks very similar, so investigating officer or the forensic expert need to get those details which are unique of one particular object or the subject. So that is the individuality principles. So it recognizes that every person and every object is the unique. So this makes the basis of the formation of the fingerprint analysis, DNA profiling, handwriting analysis. So these are the unique to that particular person. Other principles of forensic science, they are the laws of progressive change, law principle of comparison, principle of analysis, and law of probability. So these all, because you are studying forensic science, you all know about, because these are the basics of the forensic science. So I just take a 2 minutes on these slides. So law of progressive change means everything changes with the time. So means this determines that, and this necessitates that the early examination and early detection is required. Early apprehension of a suspected person is required so that the identity can be matched. The firearm is, suppose a person was murdered with a firearm. today and the firearm is recovered after 10 years of the incident, so there are the chances that the matching of the firearm is not possible because the firearm is continuously in use from the last 10 years. So due to the wearing and tearing and the repairing of the firearm may have changed the characteristics of the firearm. So at that time, after 10 years, if you try to compare the bullet, test bullet with the now, the bullet which is recovered 10 years back, so the matching may not be possible, sometimes may not be possible. So that's why the early detection and early examination is required. So that says the law of progressive change, everything changes with the time. So the early assessment is required. Principle of comparison. Comparison is a very important aspect in the forensic science. Without comparison, most of the things cannot be possible in the forensic science. And that's why we always collect the control samples from the scene of crime. If the hair sample is found, so we, from the scene of crime, so we collect the some 50 or 100 hair samples from the suspected person and compare them, whether they are same or not. If the soil is present at the scene of crime from the scene of crime and from the shoes of the suspected person, so we match them, collect the soil from the scene of crime. So this comparison is required. So when at the time when we are collecting the evidence, so we also collect the standard control samples so that the comparison can be made. Principle of analysis. The principle emphasizes the necessity of correct sampling and the correct packing. Even you have the sophisticated techniques in the laboratory, if you are using the high-end technology in the laboratory, but if the samples are not correctly packed, samples are not correctly recovered, so any analysis can be go in vain. So proper sampling and collection is must for the better analysis in the laboratory. So this is called the principle of analysis. And the law of probability. This law of probability is very challenging for the forensic scientist, because as a forensic scientist, when you go into the court of law for the cross examination to justify or report what you have made, so it is asked by the jury or by the lawyer, okay, every time you got this result, every time you will get this result. Suppose you are analyzing for the presence of the cocaine, you are doing the chemical test, or you are doing the instrumental analysis. So every time you will get the positive result or negative result by this method. So that is a probability. So that needs to be very clearly what is the quality control. So that data must be properly known to the forensic scientist. What is the probability of that particular test? If I am using the one chemical test or one instrumental analysis or by using the certain protocol on that particular evidence or sample. So what is the probability that I will get the samples? It may be 90%, maybe 80%, it may be 70%, it may be 100%. Like the fingerprint, you can say, if I get the 8 markings or 9 markings, so then I can say it is the probability is 100%. So this probability is need to be established and must be known before going to the for the expert testimony. So this is the probability. Okay? How much probability and how much time the result repeat itself. So these are the few. So apart from these, so these are the principles and laws 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are the principles and laws which are entirely related with the forensic science. But as you know, the forensic science is not alone itself is a science. The application of the different sciences. So means the law applies to the physics, law applies to the chemistry, applies to the biology, are also applies in the forensic science. So along with these specific rules, the other laws are also applied to the forensic science. So all this all forensic science, this forensic science is based on the evidence. If the evidence is not there, if the evidence is lost, evidence is not properly packed, not properly collected, they are washed up intentionally or unintentionally, so then it will severely affect the case. And there are the cases, if you remember the Arushi murder case and other cases. So number of cases are remain unsolved or become mysterious, become blind due to the absence of the evidence, or even the evidence were present but not properly collected or packed to the and sent to the laboratory. So evidence as general is defined anything which stands to prove or disprove something. Something means the crime. So whether the crime is committed or not, or whether the person was involved in that crime or not, it proved or the disproved. So that is the evidence. So evidence can be in broad category. If we want to divide the evidence can be of two types. So one is the oral evidence, another is the documentary evidence. The documentary evidence we call the physical evidence, and the other evidence, that is the oral evidence, that is currently called the expert testimony. So data presented to a court or a jury in proof of the fact in issue, in which may include the testimony of the witness, records, documents, or the objects. So in two forms, this evidence can be produced either in the report by the examining the physical evidence, or directly into the laboratory, into the court as a witness testimony, or the expert testimony can also be there. So according to National Institute of Justice, NIJ, USA, evidence refer to the information or objects that are admitted to the court of judges and juries to consider when hearing a case. So that's why while we must be very cautious while examining any evidence into the laboratory, because it can be asked to us during the cross-examination by the jury, which method we have used, what is the probability of that getting the result, and what is the authenticity of the test that we have used. Also, the court cannot force us to disclose the whole method of whole procedure, but the probability and the authenticity can be asked. In other words, evidence is the documentary or oral statements and the material objects admissible as testimony in the court of law. So they are the physical evidence. So physical evidence deals with the material objects. So it is the material left at a crime scene by the perpetrator or taken away by the suspect or the victim. So it may be any impression left in some articles. So anything that is present at the scene of crime and that helps to establish a linkage, so that becomes the physical evidence. So the amount of consideration is given, how much important the physical evidence is. So that is based on the individual and the class characteristics. So all you know what is individual characteristics and what is the class characteristics. Individual characteristic means the characteristic which is very unique to that particular subject or the particular object. No two object or subject have the same characteristic, like the fingerprints, DNA. So they can be the individual characteristics. And the class characteristic means there's a group characteristics. The certain groups have this particular type of characteristic, like the shoe pattern, shoe impressions. So they can be the group two. Two shoe may have the similar type of impressions. So but what is the importance of this physical evidence and how we can differentiate with the testimony? So, and which has a more value? Which has a more value? So give the one answer in the chat box. So which has the more value? The oral testimony has the more value, or the physical evidence has the more value? So unlike oral testimony, the physical evidence is not influenced by the stress of the moment, and it does not forward. And also we can say it does not lie. The person can lie, but the so if you have given the answer, the physical evidence has the more value. But actually, both have the same value. But when we need to compare, when we need to choose the one which has the more value, in that case, the oral evidence has the more value, because the oral evidence, they are cross-examined in the court of law. So because the person was present, because it's a direct evidence. Oral evidence is the direct evidence. The person was present at the scene of crime, and he is giving the explanation in the court of law, and simultaneously he is being cross-examined. So that's why it has the more value than the physical, if we compare. Otherwise, both have their own values. So unlike the oral testimony, the physical evidence is not influenced by the stress of the moment. It does not forget and also does not lie. So means the physical evidence is anything which is present at the scene of crime, and you are collecting, or the police officer is collecting and sending to a laboratory, and you are analyzing, preparing the report, and the report is presented in the court of law. And you, as an expert, may be called to give the opinion on that report, and you may be cross-examined. So this is the same thing, the class and individual characteristics. So when we analyze anything on the physical evidence, there are the four basically the methods, or you consider the other four, basically the steps, the comparison. Most types of evidence require the control with which to be compared. So as I discussed earlier also, comparison is very important part of the forensic science. Visual, if everything can be utilized or compared through unaided observation, then that analysis is called the visual. Means we are not using any microscope or anything, any lens, so then it is a visual examination. So large objects can be analyzed visually. Microscopic, trace evidence or evidence which are very present in small quantity. So that is microscopic examination. Suppose a morphology of hair, if you want to see externally, you can see by unaided eyes visually, but to whether what is the diameter of medulla, cortex, and pigment distribution, then you must go to the microscopic examination of the hair. So microscopic analysis indicates that evidence must be observed with the use of some type of microscopes like hairs and the fibers. Chemical, if an article of evidence must be subjected to any type of chemical procedure to be utilized, so then if your fingerprints are present scene of crime, you need to develop them. So you are using the chemicals, either the powder methods or using the chemical methods. So that is the using of the chemicals to develop or get the positive or negative results. So these are the ways by which we choose. So we start the sequentially. So when we need to analyze the any evidence, so first we start from the visual examination, then the microscopic examination, then the comparison, then the chemical test. Because we do the non-destructive method, start from the non-destructive methods towards the destructive methods. If the non-destructive methods are not successful, then we can take the some sample, part of the sample, and not all the samples, a part of the samples, and go for the analysis by the destructive methods, chemical methods. So physical evidence has a very very good value. It means it has the value in the forensic science. So without that is not investigation is not possible. So Vernon J. Gabbard, who has the 40 years of experience, he worked in the New York City Police, and he was the superintendent of that police. So he wrote several books, and according to him, and he solved thousands of cases. And according to him, the practical homicide investigation point out that physical evidence is useful in helping to establish the scope of crime scene, placing a perpetrator at the scene, connecting a suspect with the weapon, supporting witness statement, and connecting crime scene areas, abduction, vehicle, use, terms. So means anything. So anything we can correlate because that is required. Because only to say, merely to say that this person is involved is not sufficient. Because with the use of those evidence, how we can utilize those evidence to prove, and we ultimately we need to prove in the court of law. Okay, why we are saying on, so that's why the scientific basis. So because in courts, well, third degree methods are not acceptable. Any statement given to a police is not acceptable in the court of law. So everything you need to prove by the either by the police or the forensic scientist, scientifically it is to be proved in the court of law. Okay, if I am saying the color is red, after analysis, it becomes red. So why it becomes red or why it becomes red? So that is due to chemical analysis. So it must be very crisp and clear to the forensic scientist. So then also it can be established. So number of physical evidence are there. Now the testimonial evidence, we call the oral testimony. So the oral testimony or the testimonial evidence, the person's testimony offer to prove the truth of the matter asserted, especially the evidence elicited from a witness. Witness means a common witness or the ordinary witness, or sometimes it is called the eyewitness. So the eyewitness is the person who was present at the scene of crime and who has seen what was actually happening at the scene of crime, or heard something, or not actually seen, but maybe if he also heard something about the crime, but he was present at the scene of incidents, then he can become the eyewitness. Eyewitness doesn't always mean he has seen. If he has heard something and he was present and he has heard, then he can also be the eyewitness. So he can give the testimony. So this is the oral statement that we are talking about, the oral statement and the documentary evidence. So oral statement, oral testimony, or the witness testimony, the synonymous terms which are used. So this is also known as communicative evidence also. So according to National Forensic Science Center, Florida, testimonial evidence enables investigators to recreate a crime scene or develop a series of events as they occurred. Because when we go to into the court procedure, in the court procedure, there are several steps: the examination chief, cross examination, re-examination. So this evidence test, this oral testimony or witness testimony is a part of the examination in chief. And the purpose of, if you have read this, so the purpose of this examination in chief is to explain the case, explain what actually was happened at the scene of crime. So to describe the case to the court, to the jury. So it is it is in the detailed way, detailed version of the statement. So on that basis, the court decide actually what was, and court understand what actually was happened. So the testimonial evidence enables investigator to recreate a crime scene or develop a series of events as they occur. So on that statement given by the witness, so the reconstruction, court can order for the reconstruction of the scene of crime, so it can be done. Or court make understand what actually was happening at the scene of crime on the basis of the statement given by the witness. So that is the importance of the oral witness and the oral testimony. And you can say this is the basis of the any case, and the physical evidence support this. So means that's why it is said if there is any case in the court of law, and oral evidence gives us some aspect of the case, so the physical evidence must support the oral testimony. If there is a difference in the oral testimony and the physical evidence report, so then the decision cannot be given and the court can order for further inquiry in that case. So if they are go side by side in the same directions, then only the this then only the judgment can be given by the court of law. So testimonial evidence considered to be more subjective than the physical evidence, because it relies on the witness's memory or understanding, which can be incomplete or sometimes can be inaccurate. So testimonial evidence, so that's why the cross-examination is required in that case. So every time when there is a oral testimony, it will be cross-examined by the defense lawyer. So testimonial evidence does not need any kind of evidence to make it admissible. It simply implies what is conference in the court proceeding by a viable witness. If there is no objection on the opposition party, opposition with lawyer, so it is admitted. If there is opposition, so then he need to prove what he is saying it is correct. So apart from this witness testimony, oral testimony, there is another testimony, that is the expert opinion. So that is another, if you remember my previous slides, so the third part was third part was the expert testimony. So as a forensic scientist, what is your role? First role is the crime scene investigation. So as a forensic scientist, you are going at the scene of crime, you are collecting the evidence, you are assisting the police officer in not only collecting the evidence, but also making the understand the case to the police officer, what actually was happening. Second is the analysis of the physical evidence into the laboratory. As and when the evidence comes to the laboratory, so as per their sections, as per their samples, they are divided into their sections, different divisions, and they are analyzed, and the report is prepared by the scientist. And the third part is the expert opinion. So this is another scope. The expert opinion is given in section 45. Forensic expert has prepared the report, so he may be called to give the expert testimony in the court of law. So section 45 to section 51, they determines this, but majorly the definition of this expert opinion is given in the section 45. So these provisions are exceptional in nature. Why are they exceptional in nature? Because if we go through the slightly in the evidence, so only the two types of evidence are accepted in the court of law. One is the oral testimony given by the witness, and second, the evidence report, physical evidence report, because they all are based on the fact. But the expert estimate, because the expert was not present at the scene of crime, he only analyzed. So why his report is accepted. So that is the exceptions of this. He may be accepted with the provision. General rule, the evidence is to be given by fact only, which are within the knowledge of the witness. So under section 45, the permission is given to the expert that he can give the opinion in the court of law. So the exception is based on the principle that the court cannot form opinion on the matters which are technically complicated and professionally sophisticated without the assistance of the person who has acquired special knowledge and skill on those matters. So there is another aspect of the expert opinion. The person, suppose you are working as a ballistic expert in a forensic science laboratory. You have not analyzed the bullet, you have not analyzed the firearm, but you are working in a laboratory for the last 10 or 20 years in the forensic ballistic division, and you have the sufficient experience in the ballistic division. And you have published some book or article also. So you are considered as an expert of the ballistics. So if at any point, if the court thinks, if it is a case of hearing in court of law, any ballistic is, and the court feels that they required the opinion from the expert, so then he may call you. The court can call you to give the opinion. Although you do not have any relation with the case, you have not analyzed any evidence with the case, but you may be called by as an expert in the court of law. So that is the expert opinion. So condition for admitting an expert opinion are the dispute cannot be resolved without the expert opinion, and that the witness expressing the opinion is really an expert. So because if you have worked for 10 or 20 years, you are an expert, and the court thinks that this cannot be possible to resolve without your help, so he may call you. So the summon will be issued. So these are the section 45 says the definition of an expert may be referred from provision of section 45 of Indian Evidence Act, that an expert means a person who has a special knowledge, skill, or experience in any of the following: foreign law, science, art, handwriting, or the finger impression. Initially, it was the 5 branches, but now it is not limited to these only 5 branches. It can be in any area. So according to section 45, the definition of an expert is confined only to the 5 subjects or fields as mentioned above. Practically, there are some more subjects or fields on which court may seek the opinion an expert. So an expert witness is one who has devoted time studying a special branch of learning, and thus he is specially skilled on those points on which he is asked to state his opinion. So his evidence on such point is admissible to enable the court to come to satisfactory conclusion. So this doesn't mean that expert must be from the government lab. If any person who is working in the private organization as an expert, he can be called on the basis of his expertise or experience. He can be called by the court of law as an expert witness. So this is another aspect of the forensic person to become the expert testimony. So there is one aspect, chain of custody. Chain of custody is always important. So while collecting the evidence, packing the evidence, so it is always documented who is collecting the evidence and who is transporting the evidence. So name, time, and the name of the person is properly documented till the time it is from the time it is collected till the time it is submitted to the laboratory. So proper documentation must be there. So that is known as chain of custody. So there should not be any breach of the chain of custody while transporting the evidence from the scene of crime to the laboratory. So if there is any breach is suspected, so then that evidence will not be considered as an evidence. So then on the basis of this, reconstruction can be done by using this. Reconstruction is a major aspect. So by using the physical evidence, by the oral testimony, the statement, all the statements, the reconstruction is done. So if we see the role of forensic science, whether actually the forensic science has a role in solving the cases, so yes, definitely. There are a number of cases in India because if you see the forensic science in the last 10 years in India, so there is a boom of the forensic science in the last 10 years. Before 10 or 15 years, there was a very few institutions who were offering the courses, and there were less number of laboratories throughout the India. But now the laboratories are increasing. There are the many universities are coming up. So now the scope is very large, and the forensic science is using uh, in every police case. Now it is passed by the law that if any crime have the punishment more than 7 years, so there is compulsory for the forensic examination. Forensic report is compulsory in that particular case. So this also opens up the scope of the forensic instruments in that particular area, because there is always now the requirement of the forensic scientist or forensic person who can work with the police officers, who can day and night in the shifts. So there is a scope, and they are appointing directly to the police stations. So if we see the scenario of the use of the forensic science and help of the forensic science in the cases, if you see the famous cases, the Nithari serial killing cases 2006. So if you remember, the discovery of the human remains near a house in Nithari, Noida, led to the investigation of the serial killing committed by the Moninder Singh Pandhar and his domestic servant Surinder Kohli. So in that case, the forensic evidence, including the DNA analysis of the remains, forensic pathology findings, played a key role in linking the perpetrator of the murder. In case of Arushi, also the case was not properly solved, and initially the father parents of this Arushi was considered guilty, but later they are also removed from the charges. So but the trial was started, on the basis of the evidence. So the lacuna was in this case was the evidence was not properly collected. So forensic evidence included DNA analysis, blood stain pattern analysis, and crime scene reconstruction played a crucial role. Jessica Lal murder case. The model Jessica Lal was shot and killed while working in as a bartender in a party late night. So the evidence, forensic evidence, ballistic analysis, because he was shot dead, ballistic analysis, and the eyewitness testimony. So they, on that basis, lead to the conviction of the prime suspect, Manu Sharma. The famous case, Sheena Bora murder case, the daughter of Indrani Mukherjee was murdered in Mumbai in 2012. So the forensic evidence, including the DNA analysis of skeletal remains found in the Rake district, played a crucial role in confirming the identity. So this identity was confirmed on the basis of the skull superimposition. So means the forensic science now playing a very crucial role in and helping the police officer in solving the cases. And because the forensic science is a science which is scientifically based on the base of the scientific principles, so whatever is coming out of the analysis, so that is beyond doubt. Internationally, globally, there are a lot of cases are there, and the few famous cases are the O.J. Simpson trial case. 1995 is a very famous case and very popular case. The trial of the former National Football League star O.J. Simpson, who for the murder of the Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, captivated the world. So the forensic evidence, including the DNA analysis of the blood found at the crime scene and on the Simpsons' clothing. So both the blood found at both the places, it was matched. It plays a crucial role in the prosecution of the case. Oklahoma City bombing case, the forensic investigators used a combination of techniques, including a bomb residue analysis and the DNA identification of the victim to reconstruct the crime scene and identify the perpetrator. Other cases, BTK killer case, it was a very heinous case, and it was not traced for almost 30 years. So BTK is a bind, torture, and kill. So this is the method, you can say the method of operating the crime. In case of serial killers, modus operandi, you can say the modus operandi, the serial methods of killing in the serial cases. So bind, torture, and the kill. So killer terrorized Wichita, Kansas for more than 30 years. But ultimately, the forensic evidence helped it. Forensic evidence, including the DNA analysis and computer forensics, played a crucial role in linking the radar to the crime and securing the conviction. Similarly, the Cassie Anthony trial case, who killed his daughter. So trial of the case is Cassie Anthony for the murder of her daughter, Sally Anthony, garnered widespread media attention. The forensic evidence, including the analysis of the hair samples from Anthony's car trunk, and forensic anthropology findings contribute to the prosecution of the case. So means the forensic science, if the evidence are properly collected, properly analyzed, so definitely there will be the linkage between the perpetrator and the crime scene. So, but nowadays there are a lot of challenges which are faced by the forensic expert. Several, as a few I have pointed here as a forensic scientist, what types of challenges. So one challenge, because as I said, this there is a boom in the last 10 years. So there is an increase in the technology. 5 years back, you don't know about what is ChatGPT, what is AI, but now everyone is using this, and the crime is committing by that. So the scientists also need to get updated. So advancement in technology, rapid technological advancement requires the forensic experts to continually update their knowledge and skills. So to keep pace with the new tools and techniques. If they are not updating themselves, so then it is very difficult for them to survive and to get the to keep growing in that field of forensic science. One aspect that is always a problem with the forensic scientists and the police office, that is the contamination and the degradation. So the samples which are found at the scene of crime sometimes found contaminated, or the methods which we're using, it is not properly collected. So then chances of the contamination will be there. So physical evidence can be easily contaminated, degraded, which can compromise the integrity and the reliability of the forensic analysis. So as I said, the principle of analysis. So even if we have the sufficient and sophisticated technology, but if the evidence are not properly collected, or they are degraded, or they are contaminated, then the analysis is of no use. Admissibility of evidence. That is another challenging task for any forensic scientist who has working in the laboratory preparing a report. So he may be called in the laboratory in the court of law to justify of the cross examination. So there he need to face the questions from the jury or from the lawyers. So then he needs to keep updated himself. He has the proper knowledge what he actually has done. So that he can prove. So he can prove his report in the court of law so that it can be admitted. So means the most important thing is it should be admitted. It is submitted, report is submitted to the laboratory is not sufficient. It must be admitted in the court of law. So this is admitted only after the cross-examination. Confidentiality and privacy. Two, because it is a confidential work, a lot of pressure is there from the politicians, from the media, and from the other higher authorities. A lot of pressure can be there. So the forensic scientist must keep calm himself and do the work silently and diligently. So handling sensitive information responsibly while maintaining the privacy rights of the individual is significant ethical concern. And the chain of custody is again the same thing. The chain of custody should not be broken. Now, the last aspect is the career opportunity. So in the same time when I was discussing, I discussed about the career opportunities also in the scope. Okay, there are the new and upcoming branches, and if rather than going to the traditional branches, if you look for some upcoming branches, there are more chances, especially in the private sectors. Because in the government labs, you need to wait for the jobs to come out and you apply for that, and it will take a lot of time. And also the jobs are not in numbers, not very large in numbers. So you need to look for the private jobs. So when you are looking and the private, there is a lot of scope, and in terms of neither in terms of jobs or in terms of monetary benefits, also in terms of salary. So you must look for those branches also. So in the private sector, so you must consider them. So after completing the degree, there are the several scopes: the forensic scientist, crime scene investigator, pathologist, psychologist. So as for your discipline, because forensic science is the application of different branches, and every person cannot be expert for all the branches. So I am the toxicology expert. I cannot be the expert in the digital forensic. So I must understand my expertise. I must understand my area of understanding, area in which I want to go. So first choose any one or two areas of your choice and study and work hard in that particular area. So if you are found suitable yourself, and if you feel good while studying the cyber and digital forensics, go in the cyber and digital forensic. If you feel good while studying the biology, so go in the biology section. But make your strength in that particular subject or particular area. So then only you will be successful in that area. There are a lot of opportunities in forensic science after completing the degree. In the government agencies, the forensic labs are there, national investigating agencies, they hire the fingerprints experts, and the fingerprint bureau, they also hires the expert, and the National Crime Record Bureau. There are some examples. In the forensic labs, a number of vacancies are coming out. You can apply in those vacancies, but the vacancies are mostly in forensic labs. The requirement eligibility is the MSc Forensic Science. So if you are doing the bachelor's course, you must plan for the first master's degree, then you can directly, and then you can apply for this job opportunities of the forensic labs. In the private labs, there are the several private labs. There are the quality assurance labs, digital and cyber forensic labs, finance labs. So finance companies, so they hire the people for the fraud analyst as a risk analyst. So they are the lot of scope. They even hire after completing your graduation. So regularly look on the internet, subscribe the different types of job portals, so you can get the regular update from the jobs, especially in the digital forensic areas, cyber forensic areas, and blockchain and other fraud analyst, risk analyst. An academic institution. Academic institution is always open because at present there are the more than 100 institutions and universities which are offering the forensic science degree program. So there is always a chance of getting the job easily in the teaching area. So, but if you are interested in giving the knowledge, imparting the knowledge to the students, so then you can go for the higher studies, MSc and then PhD. And after PhD, you have a lot of opportunities, the forensic science, especially you can say there's 100% placement if you have the PhD in the forensic science. And it's very difficult to get the PhD nowadays also, although there are the 100 plus institutions who are offering the forensic science, even though the PhD candidates are the scarcity of the PhD candidates in forensic science, good PhD candidates who have done the good work, good research work. My mere degree is not sufficient. The good work is required. And the good work is as per your choice. Either you want to go in the toxicology, you want to go in the serology, you want to go in the biology or any other area. Three major areas which are very important in getting the jobs in forensic science. One is the consulting firms. Either you can start your own venture, you and two or three, after completing your BSc forensic science or MSc forensic science, you can start your own company with a very limited setup. Initially, you can start with this document examination and you can register your company and you can start. Or you can work with the existing consulting companies, either the legal companies. You can also work with the legal companies. And because the legal companies always require the forensic experts to give the opinion in the court of law. Because the lawyers can ask the question, but they cannot give the opinion, scientific opinion, because they are not the scientists. Do not have the scientific knowledge. So they can ask the question to the scientist, but actually what actually the scientific knowledge or scientifically that question can be answered. So that is given by the scientist. So as a forensic person, you can get the job. Legal firms always require the uh, forensic scientist or forensic person who passed out in, but you need to search for, because openly there is no platform in India so where you can find a job very easily, but you need to search. When you search the jobs, definitely you will get the jobs in your area. So consulting firms, then the insurance companies, as we discussed in the previous slides also, the insurance companies may employ the forensic accountants, fraud investigator, other forensic specialists to investigate the insurance claims, detect frauds, and assess financial losses. Then the banking sectors, forensic science can play a crucial role in the banking sectors, particularly in the areas fraud detection, investigation, and the risk management. They actually are hiring the big companies, the big banking, especially the privates, the SDFC, the Axis Bank, the ICICI Bank. So they are hiring. So the Tata AIG, insurance with Tata AIG and other So they are hiring. You must work on that. You send your prepare a good resume with 1 or 2 certification course. So then send your resume directly to the company. So definitely you will get a call for this job opportunities. Academic institution is always open and always have the jobs. So because in academic institution there's a lot of opportunities. You can go in the research, you can be in the teaching and education along with the research. You can do the along with this too. We can do the professional development, workshop, conference, seminars, or publications. You can write the books. You can write the research articles. You can write the case studies. A number of things are there in the academic institutions. So this is and if you are a BSc graduate completing a BSc degree. So there's a lot of options. There is not essential you do the MSc only in the forensic science. If you have the some specialized area you want to go the some specialized area, you can go the some specialized areas like the forensic psychology. You can do the degree, master degree in criminology. You can go the master degree in digital forensic or cyber security, forensic odontology, and this depends on you. But must remember one thing: as you go to the specialized areas, so you are narrowing down your scope. So always keep your space broad. And if you want to go in the cyber forensic, if you do the master degree forensic science, the specialization in cyber, so that is well and good for you. So you have always some other areas to go. Or PhD is always an option. So this is not only so if you want to go pursue the higher studies outside India, so there's a lot of scope outside India also because the forensic science is well established, but you need to work hard for that. You need to identify the universities in which you want to go. So there are two aspects outside India. Either you want to go for the job in a laboratory or you want to go for a higher studies. So if you want to do the masters in forensic science, MS in forensic science from outside India, so you need to complete here 4-year degree course. BSc honors, the 4-year degree course. After 4-year degree course, you need to do a 1-year bridge course to complete. That is a requirement of their MS degree. So after completing a 4-year degree, you can directly apply for the MS course, irrespective of they are asking for the GRE and TOEFL score. So that is required. And if you have a 3-year degree course, then you need to do a 1 bridge course from there only, and then you can enroll for the MS course, forensic science course. If you want to go for the PhD, so PhD it is easy to go. There is no need to clear any GRE course. GRE directly you can apply for the PhD course after completing your MSc here, but you need to apply for the different universities, and it is the work of patience and hard work you will get. If you want to apply for the jobs, forensic jobs are also available in the countries, especially in the South America and the European countries. So you for that also you can sit on the internet, spend some time on the internet, search for the jobs, apply for the jobs. So definitely you will get the response from that. So this is the scope in India, in the forensic lab and the outside where you can choose your career. And more or less in academics, there is a lot of scope in India and outside. So that is always open. So thank you everyone. So this is all about my presentation.
Okay, am I audible? Hello,
Yes,
am
you
I
are
audible?
audible.
Okay, a heartfelt thanks to our esteemed speaker, Professor Prashant Agarwal, sir. Your expertise and comprehensive insight into the scope and career opportunities in forensic science have undoubtedly enlightened us all. We appreciate the time and effort you have made to share your knowledge with us. I would also like to thank our chairman, Professor Dean Sir Bimal Kumar Sarkar, for this continuous support and guidance. Now I would request our Dean Sir to conclude this session.
Yes, actually, this is the time.